I'm Lorelai.
And I am Leah.
Welcome on I'm an Equestrian podcast. We founded this podcast 2 years ago, and today we are thrilled to release this new episode in English. In this podcast, we chat with great equestrians and seek to better understand our sport. What is it to be a horseman? What does it cost? What do they dream of? We hope that each of our episodes will participate to strengthen your passion for horses and to empower you as a horse lover, a horse rider, and a person.
The equestrian we will introduce this week is, first of all, a rider. He has already represented Ireland in more than 128 Nations Cup. He has participated to 3 Olympic Games, 2 World Championships and 6 European Championships. But he also is one of the greatest businessmen of our industry. He is the one who processed the purchase of 2 French Olympic horses, Urvoso du Roch and Berlux Z. The man created Karlswood stables in Ireland, and he is based in Wellington during winter. We met him during our stay at the Winter Equestrian Festival, Cian O'Connor. Through this episode, you will hear Cian's story and learn about the obstacles he has had to overcome to get to the place he owns today. Cian also detailed the way his system works. He talked about how sport is built, both in Europe and in the US, about the perfect horse that he endlessly keeps looking for, about his team, about future, and about success, his success. A huge thank you to Cian for welcoming us in such an amazing place in their Wellington stables. Another incredible moment that felt suspended from reality.
And today's episode is sponsored by Belgium-based company Cian OConnor. Cian OConnor offers an exclusive range of quality products for horses and for the environment of the stables. All their products are natural and tested through an extensive scientific process, which are, I think, the 2 main standards to take into account when providing your horse with supplements. Over the years, Cian OConnor teams have worked in tight collaborations with specialist veterinarians to bring natural and effective products that are all scientifically proven, safe to use with horses, studied to be time and cost effective, and obviously guaranteed non-doping. Just like our guest, Cian O'Connor, many top-level riders and trainers around the world have already adopted Cian OConnor's solution to support the health and performance of their horses. And here are some figures that speak for themselves. During the last Olympic Games and World Equestrian Games, more than half of the riders were using Cian OConnor products. If I had to pick one out of the many products available in their range, I would definitely pick the Sano-Stress range to give my show horse, Callisto, some extra calm and confidence in the ring. Sano-Stress is a natural complement for horses that may be sensitive or subject to stress at work, competition, as well as during transport. It has been conceived solely based on high-quality essential oils, effective to bringing calmness to anxious horses. The main mechanism of action is stimulation of the olfactory receptors of the nasal mucosa and the activation of the neuromediator system, creating an anxiolytic effect. Cian OConnor is currently present with worldwide distributors in Europe, North America, Middle East, and Australasia, but you can also order online on www.cianoconnor.com. Before getting immersed in this conversation with Cian O'Connor, here are some words Max Washman said about him.
I started training with Cian just over 4 years ago. He was always someone I admired and looked up to. He's a very good Irish showjumper. He's been amazing to train with. He's an unbelievable coach, unbelievable with the management of the horses and everything. So no, it's been really great training with him, and I've learnt a lot. As a rider, he's amazing. He's always so good, especially on Irish teams. He's very good under pressure and always seems to deliver on a big day. That's very admirable, and it's good to look up to. He's a very good horseman. He's knows loads about the horses and the management and everything. He's very good with the horses. He can always spot problems before they happen, and no, he's a very good horseman.
Hello, Cian. Thanks a million for accepting our invitation to record this episode. We here are in Wellington today, where you're spending most of your winter to train and compete. Cian, the purpose of this podcast is to dive into riders and equestrians' lives to try to picture what has their journey been so far. And today we want to understand how you became the man, the rider, the businessman that you are. To draw the big picture of your career, we can say that you started riding very young and then participated to your first Nations Cup when only 19. Since that very same day, you have represented Ireland no less than 128 times in championships, Nations Cups and major competitions. A bit more than a decade ago, you created Karlswood in Ireland, which is a training center where you train a great number of successful riders. We will talk about all of these successes, but before that, I'd like to ask you if you can tell the story of your life with horses. How did this start?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be a part of this episode. Yeah, it's interesting because I suppose a lot of interviews that we do are short and specific to certain questions. So what's unique about this is it makes us reflect and think back over an area that we probably don't think about anymore. And I suppose for me, I went to a rugby playing school in Dublin called Belvedere. And my grandfather was a very famous Irish rugby player, Carl Mullen. And so it was in my family that rugby gene, and they thought I was going to be a rugby player. But I wasn't that good, and I wasn't that big, so I got annoyed. I got sick of people thrashing me and pushing me around the place on the rugby field. So my father had an interest in hunting horses, and when I was about 14, I started doing that with my dad, Tig, and he had a good hunting horse called Raddy Man, and I started to ride on the beach and just get lessons in the local riding school, and it kind of all went from there, really.
When we contacted you, Cian, on behalf of Laurent Guillet to ask you about this episode, you immediately answered positively. And I have to say that we were very moved. I know this will most probably be the hardest part of this interview, but can you tell us about who you are? Describe a little bit your personality.
Sure. I suppose I had to work hard to get to the top of the sport. I wouldn't say like a lot of people they're born into equestrian dynasties, and in some way that's a huge advantage. Maybe in other ways it isn't, but in some ways they have the infrastructure, they have the support around them. I didn't have that, so I had to find it on my own, and a lot of people helped me. I had a lot of support from people who bought me horses, to coaches and everything. But it was more I had to go and get it myself, and work very hard to try and get to that top level. So I suppose that took longer, and in doing that you have to learn how to make it work as a business. And so I feel I had to work harder than most to get to where I wanted to be. In terms of my own personality, I think I like to be organised, structured. I like to think of the big picture. While I don't want to waste or spend money unnecessarily, I like to do everything the best for the horses. I would have more staff than most people because I want the care and the attention given to the horses more. Everything that we try to do is about really, really having the horses in top shape. So I suppose I'm a bit controlling, probably a bad delegator. But everyone that works here with me knows that I work equally as hard, so they're all happy to put in the effort as well. You'd have to ask my wife. She might say I'm a little bit intense as well.
Maybe we will. When you were a teen, would you have dreamed of like being in the place you are today, at the rank you are today in sport, here in such a place in Wellington?
I suppose like when I finished school, I did my final exams when I was 18, and I rented a stable outside Dublin, a very nice family called the Connellys. I rented this place when I finished school, and my mum wanted me to go to university, and I told her I'd take a year out and I would do horses. Okay, we never had the discussion again, but it's not like I sat down at 18 or 19 and made some kind of major plan of where I wanted to be. I was already happy then as well. I was happy doing the national shows or riding the horses. Obviously, it was a big dream, like for every kid in Ireland, to jump on the team in Dublin, and you're going to work to get on the junior team, the young rider team, the senior team, and you're going to have these goals and targets. But I never kind of was upset because there was always more to achieve. I was already happy with what I was doing each time. In fact, it's later years that's harder because you try to repeat the success that you had in previous time, and that's sometimes hard to deal with emotionally, and to keep yourself horsed and to keep yourself interested and motivated when other things come along, things that are important like family, business, all those things. When you're in your 20s, you don't have those things to think about. I see riders here now in Wellington, and they're going very well. They don't have maybe the same commitments or the same stress or other factors in their lives, and you can see they're as free as a bird and everything comes easy. And so I think life, and especially equestrian life, it's like a book in chapters, and you have to be prepared to turn over the chapter. And things are different when you're 18 to 25 to 40 and so on. So it's unusual to be philosophical about it, but I think when I look back, I've been on the road now for 25 years, and hopefully I can do it for a few more years. But there's many different emotions and many good memories.
Let's talk about your career, Cian. What have been the main steps of your riding training and even business career?
I suppose with business, like early on, my father was a businessman. He bought and sold property and cars and everything. So I always knew the idea of buying for $1 and trying to sell for $1 plus a bit more. So I've always been happy to trade and sell. Even when I finished school and I had the yard at Copper Alley from John Connolly, I was dealing in amateur horses and cheaper horses and that kind of thing. That's how I got going. I've always found that the teaching model is a good model for me, because if you can improve people and they're going to get better, then they're going to work with you and respect you, and you can do business with them in the future. So that's a model that I've been kind of in from since I was 20, and it's worked well. In terms of sporting career, yeah, the sport has changed so much, and it changes every 3 years. Like I can remember when I started first coming onto the team 20 years ago or a bit more. The general model was you would go to maybe the Sunshine Tour, and then you come home and the horses would have a break, and you might do one national show. And then we used to go to the 2-star in Fontainebleau, and then we'd go down Nations Cup in Le Bowl, maybe, or St. Gallen or whatever. And it was like building up for 3 months for something, where now it's like 5-star, 5-star, 5-star for the riders every week. There's many good points about it, and there's also not good points, like who's producing the next group of horses and where the next superstar is coming from. People aren't producing anymore, they're only competing. So we could talk about that all day, but that's another side of it,
We will talk about it. 4 decades now, you've been a very talented and successful rider, and as we already stated it, you're riding with the Irish vest, and you commit to wear the Irish vest. Has this always been something really important for you, to be able to represent your country, to participate to the growth of show jumping in this nation?
Yeah, I think as well, maybe to be fair to people coming onto the scene nowadays, things are different. Like when I started, you went national shows, small shows, Nations Cups. Your whole career was in the hands of your chef de keep. I mean, nowadays you can be in the top 10 in the world, and you don't have to have your chef de keep's telephone number. You can ignore him if you want. and so the Nations Cup, the FEI have let it decline a little bit in its appeal. I suppose the same as the World Cup, but other circuits have come on and injected a lot of money into the industry, which has only been positive. But then the FEI as a governing body need to also keep the interest of the Nations Cup, that it doesn't become the weakest of all the leagues there are.
Yeah. So can we talk about the Olympics?
Sure.
So there was a new format last year with 3 riders, no drop score. It's been tough. I know it's been tough also for the Irish team. I know Shane Sweetnam, talking just about him. What's your opinion about that? How did you experience it from your position, and also what did you think at the time it was happening?
Yeah, it's tough, and listen, there's all different points of view, but I mean the main point of view is everyone talks about looking after horses and trying to do the best for the horses. And obviously if you can have a drop score, it's better, particularly when Olympic Games are far away, or a lot of horses have to compete a lot to get to that Olympic Games. How healthy are they, and so on and so forth. So in horse sport, having a drop score makes total sense, and anybody with an ounce of common sense would agree with that. I don't know, are there other agendas? We've seen letters from the IOC. We've seen people in the FEI argue about more flags, but to my mind, it's all a smokescreen. It's all nonsense. there's no valid reason, because if you dumb down the Olympic Games to allow countries into it who aren't up to the standard, well, then it's not really an Olympic Games anyway. So the level has to be, at Olympic level, has to be a proper metre 60 championship level. And having a drop score, it's always worked. The part that I suppose bothers me a little bit is that for FEI or anyone to tell us that, you know, the IOC said change or be changed, I'm not totally sure that's true. I was on the jumping committee for a year, but I couldn't stand it, so I left after a year because I'm a bit too opinionated to be told what to do and to have my opinion not listened to. So I found that hard. Like, we work tirelessly to find horses. If you mentioned Shane Sweetnam, he's got syndicates, he's got owners, he's travelling across the world, no more than myself, looking for horses, finding horses, competing them, bringing them up to a level, and loads of riders are doing this. And then the horses maybe, you know, don't come through or whatever, and we start the whole process again. So when you see the riders there every 4 years, it's not that, you know, they just happen to get there. That one horse that they get there with, they might have started with 20 horses, working and trying and seeing which one was good enough. So it's a whole different thing. And so for us, as people who are doing it at the coal face and who know what it takes, I've been in 3 Olympic finals. I think that people who say the opposite just don't understand.
Last year, a couple of weeks only after the Olympics, your client, Mr. Washman, and his 2 boys invested in 2 French horses, Berlux Z, that we just saw in your stables, who was ridden by Simon Delestre, and Urvoso du Roch, Nicolas Delmotte's Olympics horse. Why have you decided to buy these 2 horses? Do you think that France is a land where we grow high-quality horses?
Yeah, there's very good horses in France, and I buy a number of horses in France every year. For me, it's important that riders that I'm teaching can bring on younger horses as well. And Tom and Max have done that also. They both had a 6-year-old Mangoon and another one called Icarus, and they brought them up to good level as 8 and 9-year-olds now. But if they want to get to the top of the sport, we can't only have a young horse. So sometimes we have to buy experienced horses too. And these were 2 horses that I identified as horses that would fit the boys well. And we purchased them to bring the boys to the next level. And as you can see, Max got on very well with Berlux last week. He was double clear in the Nations Cup to help Team Ireland win, and Tom was clear and placed in 2-star Grand Prix last week as well. So I'm very happy with both horses. They're going well.
You just mentioned it, but basically we have to be able, or riders have to be able to ride young horses, to give them experience and to train them to the top level. You know the American system very well, and you know that here in America we don't manufacture horses, we don't breed them, we don't ride them as youngsters. Do you feel like they're missing some part of this rider's journey that helped become a top-level rider, or do you feel like their education still help them become top-level riders anyway?
I think with all riders, it's not just in America. I think across the board, also in other European countries, like in Ireland, you see kids that come out of Ireland, they've been hunting across the fields and jumping gates and hedges and that kind of thing, and there's a natural flair to them. And when you can take that natural ability and harness it and give people a structured system, which the Americans do very well in terms of the seat and the correct rhythm and the correct distances and counting the longer related distances. I mean, in France or in Ireland 15 years ago, if you started counting past 6 strides, people would think you're crazy. And they're counting 9s and 10s and 11s now because the time allowed is so short. And if you want to win a speed class, you need to know it's 12 strides down there and you can go 10. If you're just waiting to see it off your eye, you mightn't be quick enough. So that's something that the Europeans have taken from the American system. So I think it works both ways. But you're right. If the system is too trained and too controlled, people need to learn to ride naturally as well and have both. It's not just one or the other. The absolute complete jockey is a guy with talent who you gave structure. Because if you only have talent and no structure, you'll win someday, but you mightn't win the day you want to win or the day you need to win. And someone that wins loads and loads of classes but doesn't deliver at championships, that's not what it's about either. But at the same time, you don't want to be stiff and wooden because you're so manufactured. You need to be able to be both. The complete rider, in my opinion, is a rider whose natural ability is harnessed and that person is trained, and that's somebody that can stay cool and be calm and jump that clear round when they're needed.
Let's talk about business, Cian. So as far as we are concerned, we arrived in Wellington at the beginning of the week and watching the show here, and also in WEC in Ocala. Others think that the American system is fundamentally different from the French and European systems. Do you agree with that? And could you identify on which aspect lie those differences?
Yeah, I suppose, as I said, there's pros and cons to every system, and we can all learn something from each one. I think what's great about the American system, my little boy is here with me, he's 8, Ben, and he goes for a lesson in Wellington every week with a guy called Charlie Moorcroft. And even after 3 lessons, how the American trainers can get the kids in a good position. He's riding at home and his leg is out before him, and here he sits very well. And so they have a very good basics of the seat, and they get it from the hunter and the equitation, how the kids can stay smooth. All that is very, very good. In terms of the French system, there's loads of positives as well. Personally, as a person who wants to buy horses that are for clients, I find that the French horses aren't broken enough on the flat, and they should be better trained. Yes, maybe the breed and whatever, they used to say it takes a French man to ride a French horse. but
Yeah, really?
yes, we used the saying before, yeah, because they go so unorthodox, and you ride with this big rhythm, and these guys can ride in this fantastic gallop with feeling. But you can't sell feeling. You have to make the product saleable. And so, bit by bit, I think horses conform a little more. I went to Fontainebleau Young Horse Championships last year, and I bought 4 horses there. 2 of them actually didn't pass the vet, and 2 did. And the 2 that I got, I must say, were really nice, and they were well trained and everything perfect. So it's not to say all horses, but generally, if you go to try a horse in continental Europe, Belgium, France, Belgium, Holland, Germany, I would say the horses are a little bit more rideable. But maybe you can find a horse a little bit more raw, a rough diamond in France. And so for me to buy horses for myself as jumpers, I don't mind that. But to have horses immediately for clients, the flying changes need to be quicker. The horse needs to be able to collect. And so that's something that I think you'll have more modern influence with younger riders coming through, the likes of Levy and people like that, who will try to adapt the European system back into the French way of doing things, and then again you'll have even better.
You're now training numerous top-level riders. We've seen today your students riding Berlux and Urvoso earlier in the ring. On your website, we can read Cian's reputation as a coach is recognized internationally. The skills he imparts and the positive approach he adopts has seen him assist many riders to fulfill their aspiration into national, continental, and potential world champions. Can you tell us what's your relationship with pedagogy? You said that you love teaching. How has this always been the same? Have you always loved teaching, training people? And can you explain your success as a trainer?
Yeah, I think first of all, to be totally honest, it started when I was 20 back in that stable in Maynooth, and it's a question of needs must. We had to train. You had to train to survive, give lessons, get money, and that's how it started. In terms of many coaches, particularly here maybe, would be fair to say, they coach people as a side. They have their own riding and then they do a bit of coaching on the side. But it's not really about, I suppose it's a bit less pressure as a coach if your students are jumping 140 or below, because you can have 20 of those students and there's not so much pressure on you. But when you have young students jumping 145, 150 up to 160, it takes huge time. The horses have to be going correctly, the staff have to be organised, the riders have to be going correctly. So there's a huge amount of me and my time has to go into making that work. And I guess that's why a lot of people don't do it. There aren't so many riders riding on a high level who are also coaching people at the same level. If that makes sense?
Sure.
Because of the time that it takes to get the 18-year-old person to 160. It's not just like if Kent Farrington was giving me a help, we could just have a chat with each other and he'd give me a few tips, or vice versa, me with somebody else. But when you're helping a young person to get to that level, you should put in so much time and effort, and I guess that's why there's not so many people who do it, because it's a sacrifice. There's only so many hours in the day. But if you want people to be good, and that's our aim at Karlswood, is to it's the only way that the business is sustainable long after I'm finished riding. So that's why I've been doing it for a long time, is that we want to take people into our place, and it's not coaching for fun, or it's not coaching for leisure, it's coaching to perform. And when you have people who are interested in getting to a high level, we say we're the people who will put in the work.
So can you tell us how you work with Max and Tom? Like, how do you allocate your time, your efforts?
Yeah.
What's the system here?
Yeah, so basically, like, it revolves around having good staff, good people. We have a New Zealand girl also that trains with us, and I have two key people that work with me at Karlswood. One is Michael Kelly and Ross Mulholland. Ross has been with me for 13 years. So he knows me inside out, and he knows what I'm thinking is my right hand. And he knows everything about the stable and how everything runs. So both Ross and Michael are very good riders and very good coaches. And then in Coolmore, they have their own staff. They have their own grooms, and I put the manager into that barn. We have a very good manager at the moment, Nina, and she runs everything. She runs the staff, she runs the daily duties, looks after the place. But every day, say here in Florida, we do a plan with 30 horses here. So myself and Ross would do the plan for the next day. So what every horse is doing, it takes about an hour in the evening time. Every evening we try to decide what the plan is for the next day, and then we put a plan in place. I sit with Tom and Max, what's the target for each horse for the next 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and we make a plan like that. And then here it's difficult because Tom and Max are doing school online, so they can only ride in the afternoons, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have no school then at the weekends, and they're riding. So we work the horses, we make sure the horses are in shape for them, and then when they come to ride after school, also they have lessons.
Cian, you are for sure a businessman. You sell many horses every year, and you invest yourself along with investors in top-level horses. As per Laurent Guillet, who interviewed 2 years ago, you seem to always be at the right place and the right time, surfing in the right wave. When talking about his way of working, Laurent said, "When we are not moving forward, we actually are going backward." Do you share this opinion? The only way of doing business is to stay ahead of others, to be leading the way.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's even for me I'm living in this world every day, in the horse world. It's amazing how it's evolving, and if you stay stuck in your way, you get left in the past. So like now with the internet and with live streaming, Michael Kelly spends half his time helping with the horses, and the other half of his time he's looking at videos. So he's research, and when we go home, he's going to do more of it. He's going to go to horse shows, and he's full time. Sometimes people talk about they have scouts working for them, but the problem I find with scouts, the scouts would be people who are employed by successful people, and they go and they ask the price or whatever. I think people don't like that. I think for the good horse, they want to talk to me, they want to see me there. So what we try to do is research the horses that stand out, the ones we don't know. We look into their background, we look at their results, we look at their videos. You can check everything now. Every country has a national website, in French Grand Prix and so on. Clip My Horse has a lot of videos on, and then you learn the backstory in each area. I know people, say, hey, check that horse, and then if we like it, we get on the plane, we go and try it. And I'm quite quick to make up my mind. If I didn't like the backstory, it's as important for me as the horse. I like to know who had the horse, where it came from, why is it being sold. I always think I'm not the most clever person in the room, and if the horse being offered to me, did somebody else not take it for a particular reason? So I never try to think that I'm the smartest one or that I got there first. I always think, why are they selling? And okay, because we got, years ago, it was always Jan Tops had the reputation with the best clients of finding the best horses, and I find a little bit now, people know we've got good clients, that we have the capacity to buy a top horse, and sometimes people will keep a horse for us or will contact me about a horse. But also we have to buy value. Not every horse is going to be Olympic level, so I also want to buy a good 3-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old that I can flip and make money, because every month Karlswood has big expenses and big costs. So it's a positive that people see us as a customer for a good horse, but not every horse we're asking about we think is Olympic level. So sometimes people get carried away when we ask. So that's Michael's job. Michael's job is to research the horses, bring me a list every week. Then I look, and then we'll start to even do more. We're not selling a huge amount of horses, or maybe we sell 25 a year. But at the moment when I'm trying to compete at a high level, it's good enough. Like maybe after the 28 Olympics. If I decide to stop riding, that's another 6 years. Then we can go full. I think that would be possible. Also, Tom and Max are very interested in the business. They're very shrewd, switched on young men, and also hard workers. And we have an idea that maybe we can have a business model. Max, Tom and myself have a Showjumping trading business, talking about trying to do something that other people didn't do, and trade at a very, very high level. And that would be interesting. But the problem is when I'm riding, also my family, the coaching, just I don't want to like half doing things, so I just put some things to the side until I can fully focus on them.
Are you in 2022 looking for the same horses that you were like 10 years or 20 years ago? Are the good horses the same, or are you looking for the same qualities in priority, or has this evolved as per sport and as per business?
I think I think the sport has changed. The time allowed is shorter, faster. The jump offs are incredibly quick. You need a horse with an amazing brain, but there's all different types and there's all different classes, and there's a client really for every horse. So obviously if we're looking for a really good 5 or 6 year old, you can't really tell if it's going to be Olympic level, but if it's a nice big horse with a good mind, then you can train him, and if he's not just top, you can also sell him for good clients. So I'm not really interested in buying a horse that's crazy difficult to ride and jumps like hell, because then if he's not good enough, you have no road to go. So I'm more interested in buying a nice horse, 16, 168, 170 tall, that is a good gallop and a good balance, and that you can sell with for the biggest classes and also for the amateurs. Really, it's important to have a horse that jumps the second pole easy. I want a horse to be very careful, but I don't like horses where you have to ride like hell for the combination or for the back pole, because these horses are very hard to sell.
You said that, and we talk about it a lot with our guests. Sports has evolved like crazily over the last years. How did you do to keep updated, to follow the same path as sport, to always be on top of sports? How do we do, to improve, to adjust?
You have to make sacrifices. Like some things, in some ways I've moved with it, in some ways I haven't moved with it. Like I've never followed the ranking, for example. My ranking has always been, one time I was top 30 or whatever, but it's never really been something that I've chased for a number of reasons. One is I don't want to do 45 shows a year. I also have a home life. I do maybe here, which is about 4 big shows here. Normally, we'll talk about that in a minute. If the horses were at a high level, I'd normally do 3 or 4 big shows in Wellington, and then maybe 10, 12 other shows. So I'm talking about doing a third less or 2/3 less than everybody else. And why do I do that? Well, I know the sport has changed, and I know it's a race to go from this 5-star to that 5-star, but there'll be a lot of guys there. That's the choice that they make, and it suits their life. But I worry for later. I worry for the time I'm not riding. Have you got stability? Have you got money in the bank? Do you own your own property? It's not just, we look back. Eric Nava, you mentioned earlier on, is one of my favourite riders of all time. I can remember very fondly jumping in the Nations Cup in Aachen in 2004. There's only 2 double clears, him and I. And it was a huge moment for me, and he was always very nice to me, and I met him at the show the other day. He's a gentleman. But to see people come and go in the sport is what I mean. And Eric made a decision to do what he did. He spoke to you about that, I presume. And so you make a decision. Do you want to have a room full of trophies and nice things and have nothing else? Or you want to find the balance in life? And I think when you get married and you have children, that changes a little bit. So when you say, how have I evolved? I have evolved in some ways, and in other ways I've chosen not to, because I'd like to do Nations Cups, I'd like to do championships, I'd like to do Olympic Games, but I haven't evolved in the rat race every week, because I don't think that's what I'm about, and I don't think I can have my Karlswood and my business if I was to do that.
Last week, Cian was the Nation Cups here in WEF, and we have seen many riders wearing the Ukrainian colors armband. Living here in Wellington and in these amazing stables might seem like living in a kind of bubble, apart from the world. And can we remain connected to the world and to what surrounds us when living in such privileged area?
Totally. No, we're lucky. There's no doubt about it. And when you see what's going on in the rest of the world, it really makes you think. You're worried about four faults or a bad round or whatever, but it puts it into perspective, really, what everyone else is going through. You have to worry about your survival, or worse still, the survival of your children. So, I mean, that's just horrific.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the end of the episode, but we still have 2 questions for you.
No problem.
Maybe not the easiest one. You'll let me know. You're part of the best riders, best equestrian businessmen of the world. Do you consider your life a success?
Sure. I'm happy with what I do. My biggest success is probably my 2 kids. I get great pleasure when I see them every day. They come into us about 5:45 every morning, 5:45. They're looking for their iPads, but we have a rule: they don't get them until 6 o'clock. Okay. And we hear little feet coming in every morning. Cara is only 5, and Ben is 8. So, it's important to hopefully they enjoy it. If they don't enjoy the horses, that's fine too. But it would be nice if they did, because we have Karlswood at home, and they can enjoy that and work within that if that's what they wanted. But yeah, no, life has been a success. I've been lucky though as well. I've been lucky because of the people that I met and the horses that I met. You can work as hard as you like, but if you don't get the breaks, a lot of people help me along the way, and I suppose then you take those opportunities and you bring them to the next stage. I've had some very good horses, and some good victories and plenty of championship success, but I'd love a little bit more. I'm not ready to go just yet.
That's perfect.
And the last one question, Cian, where do you imagine yourself in 10 years from now?
10 years from now is 32. I guess the Watchmans will be at a very high level, which is what I want them to be. I'd like to have other business interests, not just horses. Definitely be stop riding then, that's for sure. And maybe my kids are doing it and I can enjoy it through them. I see other people whose children are doing it at a high level, like Philip Arts, and it must give great pleasure when you see your own children doing it. So that's something I look forward to. But I think it's just, I have so many ideas in my head and things I want to do and expand and stuff, but I don't want to give myself a nervous breakdown and trying to take on too much. So I want to try and do, like I said, try and do each part of it right at this moment. But yeah, every day we get up, we're lucky to work with horses, and we're lucky to do something that we enjoy. So hopefully we'll be in the sport for a long time to come.
That's what we hope for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, here's the end of our episode. Thanks for listening. Big shout out to Cian O'Connor for his time and kindness. A French translated version will be available next week. And in the meantime, take care and have a nice day.